So this week, several crazy videos came out from the border. Not crazy like surprising, crazy like, well, bad. Here's Biden's Department of Homeland Security cutting razor wire to let people through. And this is what DHS is telling them once they get in.
Okay, it's no problem if I go to Chicago. Either you want. Thank you.
Ah, America, land of the free, home of this guy, I guess. Of course, it shouldn't be a problem. Chicago has plenty of aliens. Heck, they even elected one mayor. On Monday, there were 2,200 people who crossed overnight. And that bridge they're standing under, that's the port of entry, the place where they could try to get in legally. But don't think of it as sneaking in. Think of it as a shortcut. Maybe that's just where their Waze app took them. And once they've gotten in by breaking the law, I'm sure they won't break anymore. These immigrants aren't just from Mexico. They're from all over the world.
Ghana. You're from Ghana. Okay. You're from Haiti.
From China?
Could be that the Chinese people just want to see what an iPhone looks like all put together. And the guy from Ghana just wants to see what a two-story building looks like. Earlier this week, they let in 45,000 people in 5 days, enough to fill up Madison Square Garden twice and still have people standing outside. Maybe that's it. They're all headed to a Billy Joel concert. Madison Square Garden, or as the Chinese immigrants call it, the other MSG. So what are red states doing with these nearly 9,000 people a day? Some of them have been bussed up to Chicago and New York City. How's that working out, New York Mayor Eric Adams?
This issue will destroy New York City.
Yes, diversity is our strength, but too much and it will destroy us. Don't want to get too strong. Earlier this week, AOC tried to give a speech, but she couldn't be heard over chants of close the border.
And the third is extension of temporary protected status.
Bet that made her want to go put on her crying pants. But why is this rush happening now? Well, it comes after the end of something called Title 42. Title 42 began under Trump in 2020 at the beginning of COVID and allows U.S. authorities to expel migrants to Mexico without the chance to seek asylum. The order was lifted back in May when the COVID health emergency officially ended. They've done the impossible. They've made Texans wish we still had a COVID emergency. Under the policy, authorities expelled migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border more than 2.8 million times. And since it ended, the numbers have gone wild. But there's good news. Karine Jean-Pierre has said that Biden has done more than anybody to secure the border. Here's what Biden's former border czar was up to this week.
Welcome to the first ever hip-hop house party at the home of the Vice President of the United States. It is clear, hip-hop is here to stay.
I guess that means that these guys are also here to stay. The DHS secretary says part of the Biden administration's border strategy is
a new digital advertising campaign in Central and South America.
Reminds me of the time the Ming Dynasty repelled invaders with the great digital advertising campaign of China. But as Thomas Sowell said, if you don't control the borders, it doesn't matter what immigration laws you have. Laws mean nothing if you don't have the political will to enforce them. So if the federal government isn't helping, what should border states do? President Donald Trump had an idea. But Texas Governor Greg Abbott, for one, has declared an invasion. He's deployed Texas National Guard, DPS, and local law enforcement. He's expanding the border wall. He replaced the cut razor wire within 24 hours and promised more marine barriers, which is great. I would have thought Abbott would try to combat immigration by making people wear masks for a year. So now it's Texas versus the Department of Homeland Security. Things could get interesting. But if the federal government is going to sit on their hands, this is a good way to act. So quick edit here. I just saw that this invasion declaration Abbott tweeted out this week was almost a year-old document. So that means that all of these people are pouring in after he declared it an invasion. I guess calling it an invasion doesn't necessarily stop the invasion. Hey, you guys are invading us. Ah, you got us. Never mind. Anyway, back to the show. The problem is that if we let these people stay, it's not something we can easily fix. Here's Tucker talking about this back in May.
The actual number of illegal aliens in this country is not 11 million. It's north of 22 million. 22 million. Fact one. Fact two, the Democratic Party is now, as a matter of policy, calling for the legalization of all illegals in this country, citizenship, voting rights, 22 million new voters. Fact three, the overwhelming majority of first-time immigrant voters vote Democrat. Fact four, the largest margin in American presidential history was 17 million votes. You would add to our voter rolls 22 million, at least, permanent electoral majority in perpetuity. That's what this is about.
Of course, maybe we'll be able to teach the new immigrants our American principles. Reminds me of that scene from World War Z. Quick, pass out the pocket constitutions! Democrats haven't been able to get a majority of white people to vote for them since we elected Lyndon Johnson. As Peachy Keenan said, "You're not being replaced, you're being fortified." In her book Adios America, Ann Coulter said, "Any other bad law can be replaced. Roe v. Wade can be overturned. Obamacare can be repealed. Amnesty is forever." Restricting immigration is a mainstream political opinion now, but when Ann Coulter released her book in 2015, every Republican candidate advocated for amnesty. It was unpopular, but that didn't make a difference. Democrats wanted amnesty because they wanted more voters. Republicans wanted it because they didn't want to be called names. They were thrilled to get any votes at all.
The most important person in the world.
Swing my vote. Everyone counts, right?
Then Trump came on the scene and started talking about building a wall and carrying out mass deportations. During his presidency, they built 450 miles of border wall. He ended catch and release and deported a record number of illegal gang members. Now every Republican candidate has to talk about what they're going to do about the border crisis. The border has been bad since Biden took office, but since the end of Title 42, things have gotten more stark. If we ever get a border hawk in office, there's going to be a huge mess to clean up. Tens of thousands of people are coming across every week. In the meantime, border states can take action. They can continue to repel migrants, and they can continue to bus them up to blue states. I, for one, would recommend we leave them all
as the home of the Vice President of the United States.